You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the Two and Out CFL podcast.
He's got it! Oh, baby!
Every week, Travis Currah.
That's Grey Cup me, which is a different person.
And Brazilian Ty.
Punters are people, too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Oh, nearly intercepted, and it's over!
Ready, set, hunt!
And we are part of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. It's Travis Currah and Brazilian Ty wrapping up the 109th Grey Cup from Regina. Well, I'm in Regina. The Grey Cup was in Regina, and the Brazilian Ty is in BC at work. Now, I was asked dozens of times why you didn't come to the Grey Cup, and my basic answer was that Ty has no self-control, and every time he comes to the Grey Cup, he goes bankrupt. Is that accurate, Ty?
I'd say no self-control, and the pettiness is out of control as well. Like, let's be honest. We all know the real reason that I have a Chris Walby jersey.
I love it. I absolutely love it. This episode of Two and Out is brought to you by the Well Endowed Podcast by the Edmonton Community Foundation. It's hosted and produced by Andrew Paul and Lisa Pruden, and it explores the impact of passionate people who are working to make Edmonton a strong, vibrant city to live in. The Edmonton Community Foundation helps people create endowment funds, and the podcast tells the stories of how those endowments intersect with the community. You can subscribe to the Well Endowed Podcast at thewellendowedpodcast.com. Well, I got to Regina on Wednesday. I actually was on the tail end of just a cold, but it really shredded my voice. So being this hoarse at the end of the Grey Cup Festival is not a surprise, but starting...
Yeah. When you're starting here,
Yeah.
and then your voice is not that much, like, it might be better than when you showed up.
It is actually better than Wednesday, which is remarkable.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah. So, I mean, I tried to take it easy. I didn't. I make it.
Yeah, as my Snapchat stories would attest.
I'm not on the Snapchat, but Mr. Sheldon Jones, who's become a regular host on Two and Out, he always had the phone out when I was rocking out, having the time of my life at the Spirit of Edmonton or whatever I was doing, making sure keeping everybody in his circle updated on the Snapchat machine. Thursday did the Spirit of Edmonton, had a great time there. Friday did the State of the League in the morning. And I guess you should say that one of the biggest news items to come out of that was the fact that playoffs, other than the Grey Cup, are going to be on Saturday in 2023. Ty, what's your first reaction?
I get the thinking where they don't want to go up against the NFL schedule. It's in full swing. You got 14 games on the Sunday. But we've seen in the past, Saturday ratings suck for playoffs. I don't understand why you want to go back to that other than just not competing against the NFL. But, I mean, Saturday is the day of the weekend, really, where people are going to go out and do stuff. I know it's in the middle of November. I get that. There's still, even Sundays during the day, I think is it can be a hard sell. I wouldn't mind a Saturday and a Sunday night, or like a Saturday, Sunday night because, I mean, hockey, you got school stuff, school sports are going, like everything is during the day. So I get the not wanting to go up against the NFL. I get, trying to give them their own day, but people are just so busy now. I don't know if it really makes a difference.
I don't have the number in front of me, but I believe I saw the Western Final had a rating of 1.2 million people on average, and that's on Sunday.
Yeah.
I feel like the Saturday move benefits more people in the stadium than it does.
100%.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. I'm not too worried about the playoffs for the CFL are consistently one of the highest rating sports program of the weekend in Canada, NFL or not. And I think
the one thing that sucks for me is I work Saturdays.
Yeah.
Right, like it was nice having guaranteed knowing I was going to have 2 games, and then I would have to record, which I mean, whatever. But at least I get to see and talk to you. Now it just makes like those Saturday triple headers. I hate Saturday day games. I hate. It's just, I if it's not broke, why fix it? It's just another. I don't want to crap on them that much because I mean this Grey Cup is I would say a rousing success. But I mean, you have what he said about Mexico in the combine. You have this move. Like, it's just get out of your own way. Why are we changing all of this stuff when it doesn't need to be changed?
It does seem like the schedule is going to be ready December 20th or around that time. That's what he said. And that they really, obviously, they want the expansion team. I am having a tough time being optimistic with that. I think it would be silly.
I'm not at all.
I just think it would be silly. I think people have suggested the whole temporary thing, like a nomadic Atlantic team for a few seasons until they can get a stadium. And what if the stadium, I don't know, that does not sound like a
well, and they trot the riders out there all the time and then say there's 10,000 people. Well, yeah, people go there as an event. Like, I don't know what the support would be for 9 home games.
It's just all about getting the stadium. I think build it and the people will come if the situation is right, the price point's right, the everything. But they need to have a place to play. They just not a 10,000 seat temporary solution before getting a team on the field. But it does appear they want the Grey Cup. If there is 10 teams, they can shave a few weeks off the schedule and have the Grey Cup in early November rather than later on in November.
How would they shave weeks off?
Well, because now that every week in the odd number of teams, there's somebody on a bye.
Right.
So they're able to pull off.
We could go back to the Labor Day scenarios we had before, where the week before it was the West on bye, and then the week after it was the East on bye.
Right. And so we'll see if that does happen in the next few years. I think that is Randy Ambrosie's main mission, and I applaud him for it. He's starting to get a little bit of the Gary Bettman scenario. There are
people that boo Gary Bettman just don't get it. It's fine, you're idiots, but go on.
There are boos starting to come out of the crowd when he shows up, and he did say he's got meetings in Atlantic Canada this week. So it is. I think he wants it to be his legacy to get that team in Atlantic Canada, and I would love to see it as well. But it does seem like things are moving at a snail's pace. But it does look like the Grey Cup will remain in November. It is kind of weird. The Grey Cup is in the books, but we still have one more weekend and one more game of big Canadian football with the Vanier Cup happening next weekend. In the past few years, the Grey Cup has been the same weekend as American Thanksgiving, or where I've seen CFL fans in the bar for the Thursday triple header watching the NFL games, and then Friday comes, and then the Saturday Vanier Cup and Sunday Grey Cup. But there's still another weekend of Canadian football to go. And to me, any time in November, it doesn't matter whether it's November 30th or November 1st, it's a wild card when it comes to the weather. So maybe the playoffs altogether, maybe you have a better chance at decent weather, but nothing's a guarantee in this climate, man.
No, and I mean, you can bitch about the weather and how it can affect the outcome of games. Both teams have to play in it. It's not like it's a huge advantage for one team. Like, cold weather, I can see, but like when you get into snow and stuff, like they moved that Buffalo game. Yeah. I called them cowards, and then I saw pictures of the stadium. Like, yeah, it makes sense. right? But I mean, both teams got to play in it. So I mean, both teams have to deal with that in their own way. And I get not wanting weather to be a huge aspect when it comes down to playoff games. I mean, we saw that in the ALCS where they closed the dome, where they didn't close the dome in Houston, and that was a storyline because Aaron Boone tried to make it one. You know, you see BC goes into Winnipeg and it's the flurries and it's cold and BC's a dome team, and how are they going to? And it affected them, I would think, but it didn't take quite the toll everybody thought it would. But I mean, you move it up, you get that little bit of warm weather. Maybe it helps the gate, and especially with festival like Grey Cup puts on from Wednesday to Sunday. If you can get warmer weather, all the outdoor stuff is a lot more enjoyable, and people are willing to stay longer and spend more money and prop that up.
Man, the Regina had a great, organized Grey Cup, and man, they fit a lot of people into the real district. I heard Friday night trying to get your coat from Coat Check. It was over an hour. Who
takes a coat to Grey Cup? Like, what are you doing?
It was over an hour wait. Saturday night, the beer lines were a mile long. I heard they were I think capacity of Riderville was, I don't know if it's accurate. I heard around 7,000. Like, it was
worst party on the planet.
Massive room. So everybody under one roof. They had the shuttles rolling, and they actually made sense. And they had schedules that they followed for the shuttles. And Spirit of Edmonton was quite a bit on an island. And the breakfast was well attended, but Saturday night it wasn't that busy, man. It was
you and four other people were on the dance floor for Brick in the Wall.
Yeah, it was quite interesting. But hey, I got a fist bump from the front man of Spoiled Rotten, and that was worth my time of being at Spirit of Edmonton.
Is there two bigger Spoiled Rotten fans than you and I?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Sheldon Jones might be a fan now.
We might be reeling him in. It was like Inception watching Sheldon's Snapchat story, because that was the point in time when you called me, but my phone goes on Do Not Disturb at 9:30 p.m. And so then I get a text message from you, and I tried calling you and went to voicemail. Then you called me back, and I missed it. Then I called you back, and you called me. I was watching that play out on Snapchat from like 10 feet behind you, and it was hilarious.
I love it. Bomber fans came into Regina on force, and well done to them. Mm-hmm. They've earned it. They've become the flagship franchise of the CFL. They did their best to make the Grey Cup a home game.
It sounded like it on TV.
Yeah. And they brought the party, and the Bombers, they dominated the CFL awards. Stanley Bryant, most outstanding offensive lineman for the fourth time in his career. He's an all-time great at the position. Dalton Schoen, Rookie of the Year. Mike O'Shea, Coach of the Year. Zach Collaros, most outstanding player for the Bombers. Dominated those awards. Super Mario Alfred, the most outstanding special teams player, and Lorenzo Malden, the most outstanding defensive player for the Ottawa Red Blacks. I thought that maybe the special teams and the defensive player could have gone either way, but not many surprises on the CFL awards night. But great to see those players get the recognition they deserve.
Oh, 100%. And not only the players, like you talk about Mike O'Shea, Coach of the Year. We see it all the time in the NHL, and to a point in football, where the team that fires their coach, the new coach comes in. If they have a huge improvement the next season, or even if it's in that same year and he turns that team around, i.e. Craig Berube, when St. Louis was dead last,
right?
They win the Jack Adams, they win Coach of the Year. Mike Babcock's never won one. You know why? Because you don't get any like kudos for getting a team to the top and keeping them there. That is way harder. Yeah. That's way harder. And Mike O'Shea getting recognized, I think that made me happy, because like that is something that he has built there, and he's getting recognized for it. It's not just a team that gets turned around for a season. It's continued success, and that's what it should be.
Is this his last game as a head coach of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers?
No.
Yeah,
I think now they got unfinished business. Now they want to come back.
Yeah, I could. They're a group that I think would be motivated by a game like that. That's for sure. The 109th Grey Cup.
Let's say he's not back in Winnipeg. Let's say wherever he goes, who goes with him? Like, players will follow.
That's true.
If they're free agents, like, it'll be that could change a lot of the landscape.
The Bombers, 5.5-point favorites going into this one, but the Toronto Argonauts aren't. Look, trends. It's so funny. We talk about old Grey Cups from 70 years ago, 80.
Like, they matter.
Yeah.
They do matter. I mean, it's history, but they don't matter. They don't matter for the game today.
Yeah, but the Argos, 2017, they're major underdogs against the Calgary Stampeders.
How many players are left from that team?
It's either none, and it's
got to be. It has to be. It has to be zero.
And then 2012. Underdogs against the Calgary Stampeders in the Dome. 2004, they were underdogs. Pinball, the coach in Ottawa, when they won the Grey Cup. Yeah, they were favorites when Flutie was the coach, but the Argos winning 6 straight Grey Cups. Yeah, quarterback. And the Argos now winning 7 straight Grey Cups against the Bombers, dating back to the 30s.
Never lost to the Bombers.
And I don't know how that works. And like you said, it doesn't matter.
Let's be honest. Those early years where the West team was always having to travel out east and just on the train and just getting screwed over like that probably helped a lot.
I think it was the 1933 Grey Cup where Toronto triumphs over Winnipeg 4-3. And early in the game when it was 4-0 Toronto. Nice. I was thinking, hey, are we going to have a 4-3 game? Because I'm here for it.
And I don't think that in that first half that it was a lot of offensive ineptitude. Like, the defense has really stepped up.
Well, and that's what Toronto needed. That was the key. Can they get to Zach Collaros? Can they make him test the ankle? Now, I haven't watched the broadcast yet. Was the ankle a big point of focus in the game? Do you think it affected Zach at all? No passing yards in the first quarter.
I don't know if it affected him. I think that no passing yards in the first quarter is more of a what O'Shea and what Buck Pierce wanted to do. Not necessarily not throw the ball at all, but they wanted to establish the run and get first downs that way and then work the pass off of it. And they opened the game with 2 back-to-back 2-and-outs. So it was really hard to get that going. But I think the game plan coming in, I think for both teams was to just try to ground and pound because it's way harder to make mistakes that way. When he did take off, he looked fine. So,
he did.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think you'd want him scrambling 8 times out of 10. Yeah. Right? Like they would rather him be able to keep him in the pocket and not have him have to scramble unless it's like a bootleg.
I was wondering about the ankle going into this game as well. And honestly,
it didn't look great Thursday when he was walking around for press conferences and stuff.
I wondered, hey, if he's a good seller and he went to, the Shawn Michaels school of
Kevin Nash in a wheelchair.
Maybe that was getting into Toronto's heads a little bit there. Boris Beattie opens the scoring with a 46-yard field goal for the Argos. And then actually the Argos make the first mistake when McLeod Bethel-Thompson gets sacked by Jackson Jeffcoat. He recovers his own fumble. But the Bombers, as we've seen so many times this season, couldn't capitalize on that. And they didn't get any points out of forcing the turnover there.
Big flipping field position. That was above.
Yeah. Yeah, but Brady Oliveira, he did have 15 carries. He did have 82 yards in this one, and that is the way they wanted to try to beat Toronto. They wanted to try to beat him in the trenches, that's for sure, right from the get-go.
And I think, with Collaros' ankle being a huge storyline, them knowing if they can get Oliveira going to the point where they not necessarily can't be stopped, but if they can get him 5-6 yards of carry, on first down, make second down manageable, where you don't have to have those plays that take too long to develop, because we know, yes, Toronto's defense is ranked 8th in the CFL. They have Enoch Mwamba. They have Jagger Davis. They have they have guys on that roster that are phenomenal. Gary Peters. These are guys that are absolute game breakers, and you don't want to give them a chance. And they held 85 yards, not terrible from Brady Oliveira.
No.
But Toronto weathered the storm, and they flipped. Winnipeg flips field position on that punt, and then their defense comes out and forces a 2-0 for Toronto to end the quarter. It seemed like Toronto would get a little bit of momentum and just shoot themselves in the foot with their drives. And Winnipeg, Oliveira, they seem to get down the field with pretty decent run game. Find Dalton Schoen, find Greg Ellenson, try to get stuff going, but it just seemed like the defense was always able to step up and make a play.
Yeah, Boris Beatty has the missed field goal, so they had a single there to go up 4-0, and then
how huge is that right now?
I know. Yeah, that single was really big for the Argos late in the game, and then the Bombers come back and they have themselves a pretty good drive. 8 plays, 70 yards, 4.5 minutes off the clock. That does end with a Dakota Prukop touchdown there. But yeah, you see the Schoen big play, 39 yards there, and look at that. The Toronto, they had the too many men penalty there that ended up getting declined on the Greg Ellingson pass. But that was a big drive where the Bombers took the lead, and you thought, here we go. The Bomber offense is going to get rolling here. And yeah, they took the lead back, and it seemed like Winnipeg was going to start rolling on the Argos.
Yeah, you have we have said his name 100 times already tonight. It feels like you have a guy like Brady Oliveira. You feel like you can run the ball down their team's throat. You have those playmakers in your receiving core. You have a guy like Zach Collaros, who once his ankle was fine, I'm sure he had some shots in it. I'm sure he wasn't playing at 100%. I don't think anybody was. But once they knew that he was fine, I think that kind of opened them up a little bit. And we saw a lot of not necessarily scrambles, but I don't even know if they were really bootlegs, but where he was not afraid to leave the pocket. And you knew once he left the pocket that pass was getting completed. And Toronto got lots of pressure. And every time they got pressure, if that first guy didn't get to Collaros, or if he missed, you knew you were in trouble.
That was the big thing. If you can get pressure on Collaros, and that goes for any game. You have a good chance of winning. It's just seems like it'd be difficult to get through Winnipeg's offensive line and get to Collaros, because when he moves, he gets into space, his receivers find open space, and they make things happen. So, yeah, Sean Oakman stepped up in this one, and he made some plays.
Dude's 800 feet tall.
As the game went on, it kind of seemed like the game of trenches was going Toronto's way, especially on defense. Their D-line was getting to Zach at the end of the game over and over and over again. And Andrew Harris was running that run he had in the first half where he hurdles the defender, and here Harris was fired up. He was chirping his old team. He's chirping the fans in the stands, and he was fired up to be at Mosaic. So we go into the half, 10-7. At the end of the half, where Boris Beatty misses the field goal, it was a close call. Sometimes those long missed field goals at the end of a half, if they can get returned back,
Yeah.
That is a dagger.
And especially because Winnipeg deferred.
Yeah.
So basically a score, and then you get the ball right back.
Yeah. Yeah. And how'd the halftime show turn out on TV? Now, I don't really want to go the negative route, which seems like everybody probably wants to. I don't know what the online chatter was, but
it was better. It was better than the pregame show or the kickoff show, because that was awful.
the production of the whole event was top notch. The names weren't maybe as recognizable to me, but the snowbirds flying over the stadium. I thought changing Pill Country to the Grey Cup logo, it looked great at Mosaic. Yep. I think the whole thing was just a great setting for the game, and they had great production, I thought.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, even on TV, it came through, sounded good. It didn't seem like there was a lot of hiccups, which I think is a huge.
Yeah, nice.
No matter, and I mean, I don't think we had any hiccups in Calgary. I don't think there was any hiccups last year, but I mean, people are always going to look for something.
They do.
And I mean, it was quick, not quick, but there wasn't. But sometimes when you have 2 or 3 acts and you got that little bit of dead time, it just seemed to flow really well, and the production was great.
Now, second half starts. You're right. Winnipeg takes the ball, and in the stands, it felt like the wind was starting to die down. I don't think it was affecting the game, but it was sure cooling me down in the stands. I was cooling off, and it started with a 2-and-out for the Bombers. Chris Edwards with the big sack for the Argos, and Toronto gets it back. Look at that. You've got Andrew Harris running the ball. Bethel Thompson hits Tavares Daniels.
Let's not forget that Leak returned that punt to the Winnipeg 35-yard line.
Yeah. Langia was struggling in the second half.
Leak had a hell of a night tonight. He had 6 returns, I think 160 some or 150 some yards. Like he gave them, even on kickoffs, he was getting to the 40, 45. He was giving them decent field position. They weren't getting pinned unless it was penalties. Like he played out of his mind tonight from the return, from a returner aspect. Of course, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I mean, he did not hurt. In fact, I think without his returns, like, because Banks went down there early, Banks wasn't 100%. I don't know what they do, if Leak gets hurt. So I think he was a real big piece of this win tonight.
Yeah, he had a 23-yard return before the touchdown drive where A.J. Ouellette gets his first score to put the Argos up 13-10. But then the Bombers answered back with something we've seen from them so many times this season. And I thought Toronto could have crumbled after this drive. 13 plays, 85 yards, 7 minutes and 12 seconds off the clock. It's Bombers 17, Argos 14 in the third quarter. But the damaging parts of that drive were there was a sack by Sean Oakman, but Toronto was offside on the play, so it erases the sack. And then there ended up being the pass interference in the end zone called on Tavares McFadden on Drew Wolodarski. Yep. So then that gave Winnipeg the ball on the goal line. So 2 penalties on that drive, and the Argos could have fallen under the pressure during that moment. But as we know, they did not.
Oh, and this team is full of veterans. Like, you look at Enoch Mwamba, he's been in the league for 11 years. Garrett Davis, 6th straight Grey Cup appearance. Like, all 6 years he's been in the CFL, he's been in there.
Amazing.
It's ridiculous. They have the guys there. They know the highs can't get too high and the lows can't get too low. And I think having that leadership group that they do in Toronto, and even Ryan Dinwiddie to a point, yes, we don't like some of the decisions he makes. We make fun of that. But his first career start was in a Grey Cup. He knows that you cannot beat yourself. And I think that leadership group and that coaching staff knows that, preached that, and these players were prepared to stay even keel. They were never out of it. They just hung around, and it paid off. But I mean, it's just that drive from Winnipeg should have been debilitating.
Yeah.
I think it would have been to a lot of other teams.
And the very next drive for the Argos, it's a 2-and-out, including that unnecessary roughness on 62. So it pushes them back. But the Argo defense, they answered by pushing Winnipeg back. They lost 12 yards on the next drive, and all of a sudden we are in the fourth quarter. And
now it gets wild.
This fourth quarter had absolutely everything. It started with the Janarian Grant punt return, the longest punt return in Grey Cup history, 102 yards to the house. It is 23-14.
I love
Winnipeg.
How Glenn Suter points out the one guy who got pushed out of his lane and just throws him under the bus for 30 seconds. It's like,
and when we talk about so many times special teams touchdowns, they are a demolisher. So look, another.
I was dejected.
Another point in the game where the Argos could have crumbled, but they didn't. They answer back with a field goal on the next.
Let's talk about that Janarian Grant punt return though. Legio misses the field goal or the convert.
Another point where that point comes back to bite them later.
Like, I don't have it in front of me, but what was Legio's, like, I didn't have a lot of faith in Legio just from what I've seen this year. We've seen him miss kicks from not 55 yards, but we've seen him miss kicks from 35. We've seen him miss converts.
Well, he drilled a 55-yarder on Labor Day, and he missed easy ones against Montreal. So
it's one of those things. Like, you knew it was going to happen at some point. It had to happen. And he misses that convert. They're only up 9 instead of 10. And it ends up coming back to bite him. But, I mean, it was just one of those things. Like, at some point, this is going to happen because it's Legio and it just feels right. It's like a Kevin Glenn interception.
Now...
However, with Beatty's 36-yarder, that was his third 36-yard attempt of the night, and I was like, man, this he has to make this, or else I am dead in the water.
The Argos, they answer back with a field goal. It was 23-14. Now it's 23-17. But why we see this where I know that teams
it's terrible coach decisions it's dumb. You don't have line changes in football.
Yeah. They have packages for the backup quarterback, and I get it if it's 2nd and 1 or 3rd and 1. It's 1st and 10. Prukop's in there, throws it deep, picked off by Shaq Richardson of the Argos. Well, now McLeod Bethel-Thompson's out of the game. Hand injury, is that what it was?
Yeah, on the drive before, on his follow through, I don't know if it hit. I think it was Jefferson. Would have been Jefferson or Jeffcoat. It was either hit his helmet or he got it jammed. It must have been his thumb, index finger area. Kind of looked like, because on the follow through, it looked like it either hit the helmet or got jammed in between the body and himself. So it just looked like that. It might be a bit of a sprain or something. I don't know the extent of it, but he had a glove on trying to keep it warm. They were going to tape it up. And then he was seen later, no tape. When Kelly was in, he was had in the hand warmer, I think, keeping it warm, loose, in case he had to come in. But I think that it was kind of a break glass case emergency thing. I don't think he was coming back in unless he absolutely had to.
Was he pushing to go back in at all?
It didn't look like it.
Oh, okay.
It didn't look like it. But I think at the same time, I think like he knows that if he goes back in, he knows the guy that's going to give them the best chance. I don't think he cares if he's the one that makes the play to win the Grey Cup or not. I mean, he got them there. He played 3/4 of the game. He knows that he's a huge part of that team. I don't think this cheapens it for him at all, or it shouldn't.
Chad Kelly on that first drive, he hits
something his uncle couldn't do.
He hits Cam Phillips for a 15-yarder. He hits Markeith Amble for a 15-yarder. And then Willie Jefferson had it in his hands. And, man, that was probably...
If Jefferson doesn't knock that down, though, that ball's probably picked off.
Yeah.
By the second level.
Yeah.
Suter pointed that out when you watch it. The DB's undercutting, and it's like, okay, well, maybe that's the best possible scenario.
Yeah. So they end up punting, but they got some valuable yards there. And then Winnipeg couldn't get anything done. And I think the biggest play that we saw from Chad Kelly, here we are, we got, 6 minutes left in the game. Incomplete pass for Phillips. And then Brandon Banks is yapping at the ref, wanting a pass interference call. He gets flagged for yapping at the ref. So they get pushed back.
This feels like it's so Brandon Banks.
Now, did they challenge for pass interference there? Because
Yep.
Okay. I do not think that was announced in the stadium.
And it was not. I think it was just, you only have one challenge, you have both your timeouts, why not?
Yeah.
They were fishing, which I hate, but it was also announced that it was announced in the stadium. I think you just missed it or it came through on TV. Foxcroft said they were looking against Toronto number 16, which would have been Banks. But he never even got touched on that play, so I just think it was a miscommunication.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. Also, like 50-some cameras, and we get 2 angles on replays. Like, give me a break.
So how big was that? Banks getting the penalty, then Willie is offside. Then we get if he doesn't get that offside, well, who knows? But Chad Kelly on that 20-yard run to get the first down on 2nd and 15. And hey,
and what set up this touchdown drive for Toronto? Javon Leake getting it to the 31 on another punt return. You're just giving the returners no love tonight, eh?
Yeah, I wasn't giving the returners love. You're right. It was shortly after the Janarian Grant touchdown, and Javon Leake sets the Argos up with a beautiful...
Guaranteed 3 points almost, it felt like.
Yeah. And the Chad Kelly 20-yarder getting into position, and A.J. Ouellette with his second touchdown of the day. Look, and I mentioned the 2nd and long for Chad Kelly, but when we saw the Zach Collaros magic on 2nd and long, on the long, like that's when I thought, Winnipeg is here. They're here.
Yeah.
But the Argos never went away. Never went away. They get the ball back. They're leading 24-23. Where are we?
Ouellette's second touchdown of the game. That needs to be noted.
Yeah, we
can get to that later.
What a great game to A.J. Ouellette. So they're up 24-23. Then Zach Collaros gets picked off by Enoch Mwamba.
Making up for his dropped pick in the first half.
Yeah. He had one in the first half.
I was scrolling Twitter as the game was on, because it was actually pretty full of Grey Cup stuff, which I was surprised, especially with the Sunday nighter that was on, division game and everything. But at one point, the Argos had 4 chances at turnovers and were 0 for 4. Whether it was that strip sack, interceptions being dropped, stuff like that. They were 0 for 4, and it was like that. You got to start converting those, because you keep giving these guys those extra lives, and it's going to come back to bite you.
Now, Winnipeg, they get the ball, and they're not able to do anything because of the Mwamba interception. Toronto gets it back. Now they're up by a point. They get into field goal range after the interception. There's 2 minutes, 9 seconds left. 3rd and 2. Yeah, they tried to get Winnipeg to go offside, right? They didn't bite. They end up calling
timeout.
Yeah, going for the kick, and then it's blocked. it was Noah Hallett, I believe, of the Bombers. And I felt, oh, wow. 2 minutes for Collaros and the Bombers. Yeah, what a great story for the Argos. It's over now.
And then that's got to be Robbie Smith's music.
Oh, man. Yeah,
what a final 2 minutes that guy had.
Collaros and the Bombers, yeah, you're right. They make the play. Robbie Smith is making catches. He had 2 catches. No, he had 2 sacks, 2 sacks.
One.
On Collaros.
The second one didn't count.
One ended up being the face mask. So here we go. Free yards for the Bombers. Like, the drama in the stadium was just absolutely amazing. Ellingson has a big 24-yard catch. And then Mark Leggio, 47 yards. It's not an easy kick to make. I thought he struggled with his punts in the second half for sure. And Robbie Smith has the block. The Argos with Chad Kelly are in victory formation. They lost to the Bombers by 1 point in July. They beat them by 1 point here in November.
Well, technically, they beat him by 6.5. If we're
Grey Cup champions, the Toronto Argonauts.
Yeah, wild.
What a fun game!
I can't believe it took 3 years for Hamilton to finally beat Winnipeg.
Now there is a three-peat champion, and his name is Andrew Harris. 3 in a row. Jagarrett Davis, his 6th straight Grey Cup. Brandon Banks, his 3rd straight Grey Cup appearance.
Finally gets his ring. I think he's done.
He might be. Yeah, Andrew Harris might be. Oh, the Argos might experience a lot of change here in the offseason.
I mean, how is that different from any other Grey Cup they've won in the past 10 years?
I don't get it. It seems like they're a team that win the Grey Cup and just fall apart. And
Florida Marlins. Marlins.
Then in 5 years, hey, they'll win it again.
Dude, they've won 3 of the last 10 Grey Cups, and they're considered they're considered an whatever. They're obsolete. They're non-existent. They don't move the needle. It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
The Enoch Mwamba, I don't think he gets his first ring. 11 years, started his career, drafted by the Bombers.
Went to the Grey Cup as a rookie.
Yep.
Thought he'd always get back.
Most outstanding Canadian, most outstanding player of the Grey Cup as well. Most valuable player, of the Grey Cup.
No. I struggle with that.
Oh, do you think Ouellette kind of should have got the...
He only had 24 yards. I get that.
Yeah.
Dude found the end zone twice. Enoch had the one dropped interception, which would count as a pass deflection or pass defense. Had the pick to kind of seal the game. And he only had 3 tackles.
Right.
You hear the people joking that it should be Chad Kelly. Well, obviously it's not going to be. But, I get why they gave it to Mwamba. I do. Because Ouellette's numbers, other than the touchdowns, kind of non-existent. None of the receivers really stood out. Nobody had 100 yards on Toronto. You're not going to give it to McLeod Bethel-Thompson.
Yeah.
He didn't finish the game. He only had 203 yards. So I just think it was kind of like the Oilers drafting Nail Yakupov. It was just nobody else there.
Yeah. But,
right?
look,
I would have had no problem with them giving
guy.
it to Ouellette. He had 2 touchdowns, but you give it to Enoch and you can tell how much it really means. And it's impossible to hate that guy. It really is.
His story
is salt of the earth. His story is wild. His story is great.
The QEW series, he's just an amazing guy.
Yeah. And he was so emotional. When he got the most valuable player, he's like, what? You guys are crazy. And then they give him most outstanding Canadian and he loses it again. And, it's just really nice to see, not that other players don't appreciate it, but it's rare you see that kind of emotion from guys who win those awards.
This episode of Two and Out brought to you by Park Power, your friendly local utilities provider in Alberta, offering internet, electricity, and natural gas with low rates, awesome service, and profit sharing with local charities. In Alberta, you get to choose who to buy your internet, electricity, and natural gas from. If you choose Park Power, you're choosing a positive local business. Plus, Park Power shares its profits with local not-for-profits that are working to make a difference for their communities. Shopping local is very important to Park Power's owner, Chris Kozowski, and we love local here at the Alberta Podcast Network, so it's a great fit. You can learn more at parkpower.ca. Zach Collaros, 14 of 23, 183 yards and an interception. McLeod Bethel Thompson, 15 of 28, 203 yards. Clean game, no picks. That's what the Argos needed.
Yeah, I mean, and they just needed their defense to keep them in it. They needed the defense to make those plays. They did, not necessarily turnovers and everything, which, I mean, they did come, but they had to make the stops. They had to force 2-and-outs. They had to, force them to kick field goals at some point, not to let them run roughshod over them. And then they did. And I mean, 5.5 points, when you look at that, it's like, well, I mean, a touchdown, you're done.
Yeah.
Right. You don't even need to convert at that point, but it just felt like with Toronto's defense and, the storyline of McLeod Bethel Thompson possibly being done, Andrew Harris, you knew he wasn't going to go down without a fight the way Ouellette's been playing. Curly Gittins has been on fire. It just seemed like they were going to be able to keep it close. But I want to know how many empty seats there really was, because that looked real bad.
I think people were getting cold and leaving. I'm serious. Before as the game started, it was pretty full. But then as it went on, I think they were leaving.
Yeah, it just seems like Regina isn't quite the CFL town that, everybody makes it seem like. I think they're a rider town.
Well,
it's kind of like Toronto and the NHL. They're not a hockey town. They're a Leafs town. I
had worries going into this Grey Cup that maybe it wouldn't be as well supported as it usually would be.
I think the festivities and everything would have been fine.
They were great.
That part I wasn't worried about. But you see, there's a lot of green and not jerseys coming. Even just the second half, it was bad.
I think folks were like, I was cold. That's all I think it was.
Must be nice to just throw $300 away.
I know. They tried to recoup some of the money. The amount of resale tickets up was amazing. And I think after 2013, lots of Rider fans expected them to be there, but that's not how it works. This isn't the World Cup. You're not guaranteed a spot. Yeah. That's what I think it was. And that's what happened there at the game. Andrew Harris had 5.5 yards a carry, 10 for 55. Yeah, Ouellette, 4 yards a carry, but the 2 touchdowns. And Chad Kelly, 21 yards rushing, 4 of 6 for 43 yards. He did what he had to do. We already got an email from Michael Walker.
I think without him, we probably wouldn't have a show.
2-and-out-CFL@gmail.com. Guys, the Argos immediately cut McLeod Bethel Thompson and named Chad Kelly QB1. Thanks for a great season.
I think you'd trade him.
And my wife across the room whispers Bo Levi.
Yeah. You trade him because the stock's never going to be higher.
You trade Kelly or McLeod?
Kelly. I think McLeod. I think those rumors don't just come out of nowhere.
Yeah. Hey, I asked Bo Thursday night.
Oh, weird.
I said, are you going to be in green next season? He says, we'll see. The rumor of Spirit of Edmonton Saturday night was that
he had coffee with Ed Herbie.
Oh, okay.
In the lobby which they're allowed to do because he's a Hamilton Tiger Cat.
Yeah.
So that's completely fine. And so, I mean, they're obviously going to be talking. And they're going to try to get him. They wouldn't trade for his rights, so they weren't going to try to get the jump on it. So, I mean, there is that we can report. But, I mean, TSN already reported it. It's not like we're breaking news. I just feel like he would have been – if I'm Bo Levi Mitchell, I tell TSN, I'm not going to come this year. I don't need the hassle all weekend. from these idiots.
I think poor Bo was getting hassled all week. Like, there were Ty-Cat 19 Mitchell jerseys already.
Which is wild. It's phenomenal. Also, how about the people like bitching about the picture you took on Facebook with him?
Oh.
Get over yourself.
He,
no, I just don't like Bo. Why? Because he's a Stampeder? No, it has nothing to do with it. No, that's everything to do with it.
It is everything to do with it. Yeah. And the rumor of Spirit of Edmonton Saturday night is that Bo is signing in Hamilton for $900K a season.
Who is he, Casey Printers?
That was like, wait, for 2 seasons? Like,
$450 a year?
Yeah. A season.
No,
I love it.
No chance.
DeVaris Daniels, his dad, was the lucky charm again. Gave the Argos the pregame speech. He was there this week, leading receiver. No, he had 7 catches and leading target getter. 12 targets. Yeah, 7 of 12 for 58 yards. But Cam Phillips, 4 for 96. If you look at the Bombers, Dalton Schoen was the leading receiver, 3 for 78. There was a deep play in the first half. If that one connected, it's maybe a different game. But it was a tight game all the way through. Shoulda, coulda, wouldas all over the board.
I got worried with the way that Richie Hall was calling defense. Like, it seemed like Toronto didn't have any adjustments for those zero coverage, those 7-man blitzes coming at McLeod. It's like, run the ball or make that quick read. It's hard to throw to the edges because you have Jeffcoat and Jefferson, but you got to start making adjustments at some point, because it felt like Richie Hall could have just done that all night.
Yeah. I went to the Legends Luncheon on Friday, sat next to G. Roy Simon. I shook the hand of the GOAT, George Reed, and George is 83 years old. I love how he's just no nonsense. I take the picture with him. He's like, I'm done. He's like, wheeling out of there.
Yeah. And then Friday night, our group chat got wild. We don't need to get into that too much. I was like butter, though. I was on a roll.
the unofficial, or like Brazilian Thai on a spoon, butter on a spoon.
Yeah. That was margarine.
The unofficial tweet up had like 800 people in a capacity of a 45 venue place.
That sounds awful. Grey Cup week would be great if it wasn't for the damn people.
They had free pretzels with this garlic aioli kind of thing, and we didn't have to put the aioli on it, but the pretzels were good. They were good.
Were they making you thirsty?
Yes. Worth the trip to Regina to go to Lancaster. I had Beaks Chicken. I met all sorts of new folks that are fans of the pod. I can't believe there are still fans of the pod, but the grind lasted all season long. 2 episodes a week for 21 weeks. So now
more than that. Playoffs are 3 weeks long.
Yeah, next year we'll cross the 400 episode plateau, so we're not going to do an episode next week, but we'll come back maybe December 5th, see who's been fired, see what's kind of happened there, because the Riders have already asked permission to talk to Kahari Jones. They
already asked permission to talk to their own running back coach.
They've already asked permission to talk to Mueller out of Calgary as well. So the busy season is just getting underway in the Canadian Football League. So hopefully, if you're listening to this on a flight home to the Grey Cup or from the Grey Cup, I hope you had a great time in Regina.
Or if you're Neely and Mike driving home from Moose Jaw.
Yes.
Okay, I have to bring this up. Last time we were in Regina together, they took us on that. Neil, not Mike, took us on that wild goose chase to a Burger King that wouldn't serve us. They get into town on Saturday,
and the first place
they go is that damn burger. And I know they went to it to be petty.
The scene of the crime.
Yeah, and Mike's order was order number 69.
Nice. Well, sorry, Bomber fans. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, I mean, you had the last two. You'd be fine for another 30.
60.
Yeah. But like, if you're a Ticast fan, you can't be happy. Like, this is probably the worst thing that could have possibly happened. No, like, I'm not even like, your biggest rival goes and beats the team that beat you 2 years in a row in the Grey Cup. Like, that's
with
not
Brandon
fun either.
Banks. Brandon Banks
and Jaguar Davis.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Argo fans. I met a lot of great Argo fans and Bomber fans and all of them this weekend. So we'll talk to you in a couple weeks. It's the lazy off-season edition of 2 and Outs up until what?
We can
April.
let ourselves go now.
Yeah. Yeah, just now. You can rate, review, and subscribe to 2 and Out on your favorite podcatcher and YouTube as well. I don't have the best internet in the hotel, but hit it up on YouTube, and we'll talk to you in a couple weeks.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.